Welcome everyone, and welcome back to another chapter of Experiencer Interviews. And today we're lucky to have on board today Denise Stoner. A lot of you, I'm pretty sure that you've met her before, but tonight, Denise was nice enough to agree to come on board and speak about her experiences. So Denise Stoner has been active in the UFO field for over 30 years. She's a director of the Florida Research Group, an affiliation of UFORCOP. She's a member of MUFON's Experiencer Research Team and is also a Florida MUFON Field Investigator, SSD, Florida Assistant Director, and STAR Team member. Prior to her current positions, she was a Florida MUFON State Section Director and Chief Investigator. Denise holds educational forums for public and private gatherings for abduction experiencers. Denise has an educational background in business and psychology and is certified hypnotist specializing in regressive hypnosis. She has taught classes in stress reduction for over 12 years for professionals in such fields as medicine and law. Denise Stoner began her research in hypnosis under Dr. Bob Romack in Denver, Colorado. They worked together for 5 years on pain control, smoking cessation, and past life regression research. Denise also worked as a paranormal investigator in the homes of abductees who felt they had been visited by spirits following abductions. She recorded evidence of the development of psychic abilities in individuals following their experiences with UFOs and ETs, and worked on a team with Dr. Romack studying abductees' abilities to locate missing people and predict future events. For 12 years, Denise conducted background investigations for the military on recruits seeking highly classified clearances in order to enter nuclear power school looking for a possible future on a nuclear submarine. Prior to retirement, Denise moved to the Naval Air Warfare Center Training Systems Division military research facility, where she was the training coordinator for several hundred military and civilian employees. Denise Stoner is also a retired scuba instructor, cave diver, and former research member of the National Speleological Society Cave Diving Section. Her retirement from the federal government has allowed her to expand her work with UFO research and investigation. Denise has appeared on TV and has participated in many radio shows like Coast to Coast AM. She's a co-author, along with Kathleen Martin, of The Alien Abduction Files, the most startling cases of human-alien contact ever reported. She contributed chapters on paranormal experiences to Kathleen Martin's new book, Extra-Terrestrial Contact. She writes for magazines on requests and keeps busy with her research. So, thanks for coming on, Denise.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
That's great. So I haven't seen you since 2015, I think, since the
That's right.
the TV filming with the Japanese crew.
Yes, that's right. It's been a while.
Yeah. So now with this damn quarantine going on, we can't really move about and meet. So I'm really hoping that this is going to stop someday, and I'll be able to travel to the States again.
I hope so. Yeah, it's been a long time already. A lot of us are getting tired of not meeting face to face.
I know it's quite hectic.
Yeah.
I've been speaking with the gang, and everybody misses everyone. So I'm really
hoping. I know.
Yeah. So Denise, your experiences started at the age of 2.5. So that's physical recall, or was it something that happened during a regression?
No, that's conscious recall.
Yeah,
conscious
recall, yeah.
Awake. Yes, and that's important. People say, well, how do you remember something when you're 2.5? Well, I have kind of a trigger that brought that forth. My mom was in the hospital giving birth to my sister. I had never been alone without my mom right there taking care of me. So it was just myself and my grandfather. He was taking care of me that night. And I was just kind of in a little living room that we had in our home. We had two, and this one was where the kids played. So I climbed up on a sofa, and I was looking out a window, waiting for my grandfather to come. He'd been doing the dishes, and I pushed the blinds up and looked outside, and there was a huge egg-shaped object right outside the window, about even with the telephone wires. And it was drifting slightly above the wires and then back down. And I was just watching. And being a child, my mind went to nursery rhymes. I thought it was Humpty Dumpty, except he didn't have a face. And pretty soon my grandfather came in, took a look, and I can recall right now the fear on his face. He was afraid. He didn't know what it was, and he was a World War I veteran and fought in the trenches in France. So he wasn't very much afraid of anything, but he was of this. So he closed the blinds and took me upstairs and said, "We're going to go to bed." Gave me my bath, put me to bed, and immediately I started looking around because my wallpaper was all nursery rhyme characters. So I started looking for Humpty Dumpty. He wasn't there. He wasn't one of the characters. So I watched, and after a few minutes, a little character started to come out of the wallpaper. And he was like a little monk. He was wearing a hood, and he had long sleeves and a robe tied around the waist. And he walked up to my bed, and he looked at me straight in the eye, and I saw these great big almond-shaped eyes coming out from underneath the hood. And he lifted his arm up, and he was holding, I couldn't tell if it was a tool or a light, but it was long and narrow, had a light on the end. He lifted his other hand up and reached out to me, and I thought, oh, this is good. It's fun. I still thought he was a nursery rhyme character, and I took his hand. We walked out the window, or out the door, into the hallway, and right through the wallpaper. He touched it with that tool, and when he did, we could walk right through. And I just looked around, and we were in a room that looked like it was all kind of glowing. There were benches that were a part of the wall, and there were other children there. I sat down, and this is where my memory is gone, because we were listening to something. We were being told something. Nobody was afraid. And whenever they were done telling us whatever it was, he took my hand and brought me back to bed.
Wow. You think it could have been a soul contract that you've agreed to? Or
I think so. I do.
yeah, because with the understand why if something happens like later on, but you're so young when you're taken. So I'm wondering if there's an agreement somehow.
I believe there was, yes. It happened over and over again, even when I was older, moving up to, oh gosh, through grammar school. And I know that I wasn't supposed to be awake for some of it, but I woke up in the park while they were bringing me home, I think. And instead, I started to run away from a very tall, thin man who didn't look like us at all. And I called him the oil can man because he had something on the end of his hand. Remember the old oil cans that had a long, thin spout?
Yeah.
You pushed the end of it and it made kind of a clocking sound. That's what he had. And he would make that sound and put drops of something on my shoulder, and it would make me go to sleep. So I don't know if he actually had something or if it was in his hand, and I would fall asleep, but he was chasing me and I could run faster than he could. So I would run home and go upstairs, and he couldn't catch me. So it happened a few times, and the sound, that clock, 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 clock of him, whatever he was doing with his hand, sometimes he would get me and I would fall asleep and he would bring me home, sometimes not. So, and his arms and legs could stretch. So it was not a dream, but they could stretch. And he would just about catch me. And I would be in the park where my school was. And it would be just before dawn that he brought me back.
Why the school?
It was attached to a huge park where football games were played. It was just enormous. And the craft would land in the park.
Yeah. So it was cloaked?
Yeah.
Basically.
Only about 2 blocks.
Okay. So did anything, could you describe to us the entity, if you can remember?
Yeah, very tall, very, very thin. And when I thought about it, I think he was more insect looking. It was not a gray at that time, although I had a gray entity that I called my escort, that I saw all my life. Why he wasn't there during this period of time in my life, I don't know. But this was more of an insectoid-looking character.
Wa- Was
Later on in my
the
life, go ahead.
yeah, the cloaked figure, was that a gray that came through?
Yes,
Okay,
that was my escort. Yes.
okay. So what did you want to say?
The insectoid I called the doctor because later on he performed a lot of medical tests on me when I was older. So he changed and let me see who he really was when I was much older.
Okay. Wow. That's something to have a
Hmm.
crew follow you throughout your life. You know, at least you know
Yeah.
the same individual, so you can always
Yes.
relate. Ah,
Mhm.
yeah. Wow. Um, Now, so did anything happen during high school, or did it slow down a bit?
Yes. I started high school in Connecticut, and there was a little bit of a lull until I moved to California. And then the same man chased me down a hill in California because my dad had gone to work. He'd been going to school in Connecticut, and as soon as he could, he applied for a job in aerospace. That was his dream. So we moved to California, where he went to work at Aerojet. And there were two Aerojets there. My dad went to work for the one outside Sacramento, and Stanton Friedman, I think, worked back and forth. He went to the one near Sacramento, but his mainstay was one, I can't remember the city, where he was the majority of the time. But my dad was in Sacramento, was outside the foothills, I want to say, in Folsom, between Fair Oaks and Folsom, I think. We were not allowed to go there, so that's why I don't know exactly where it was. And my dad did something called, well, it was testing. He was always saying it had to do with testing something. And he would go to a place in Nevada in some tunnels and do whatever it was he did, and then bring the items back and test the results of what he did. He had a clearance of some kind. So I went to school there, high school, and I was chased by this same man with the oil can
Oh,
um, down a hill just before it got dark. And my best friend was 2 homes away from us. And I ran immediately right into her house because we knew each other that well. And there were 6 children. So there were always kids running in and out. So I just opened the door and ran in. And I told her dad I was being chased. So he called the police. And one young cop came and parked. And he said, well, where is he? And I said, I think he went in their backyard. And we had fairly large backyards. So he went into the backyard. My girlfriend's dad had us all sit down along their sliding glass door. All the kids that were home, we sat there. And while the policeman was in the backyard, it had gotten dark and we could see his flashlight moving through the orange trees. And pretty soon, this creature, this entity, stood in the sliding glass doors and looked at all of us. And we started yelling, this thing is looking at us. He's here, he's looking at us. And the next thing we knew, the policeman appeared inside the front door and said, I don't have anyone with me and I'm not going back there. And he got in his car and drove away. So we know that he saw him.
he left you.
Left us all. Yeah.
Oh my God,
Yeah. Left
that's
us all.
that's a bad cop.
Very
But
bad. Instead of calling someone else to get to help, he must have been so shocked and startled at what he saw that he wasn't going to discuss it. And he
yeah,
left. Yeah.
you know that's crazy. Was
Yeah.
there an adult with you?
Oh, yes. My girlfriend's dad was there. Yes. Yeah.
Well, thank
So,
God.
yeah. Yeah, but all the kids. So he just locked the sliding glass doors out to that big yard. And then he opened the front door and he watched as I crossed the yard to head for my house.
This is what I like about your story, is that you've got a lot of corroboration with other people around you. Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the other stories we're gonna get into, you got people with you, so that's
Mm-hmm.
more validation, I guess.
Yeah. And I recently asked, I'm still good friends. This is a good friend of mine who she retired from City Corps. She was just a genius at math. So she worked something like 35 years or 40 years for City Corps. And I just recently asked her if she and one of her brothers recalled what happened. And they both do. They
Really?
remember that night.
Ah,
Yeah.
wow, that's creepy, but it's really awesome. Okay, so let's get into your. So we're gonna get into the 2013 event, but was there anything that happened? Anything major that happened between those two events?
No. Well, we moved. I got married, and my husband went to Vietnam, and I was just out of my junior year in high school. But we thought, and my dad did too, that if we married early, that if something happened to my husband, I would have money put away. And it wasn't being mean or anything like that, but there's a lot of Vietnam brides, war brides at that time, that if he went overseas, I would be taken care of. And so we got married, and he went overseas 10 days after we got married. And I finished high school before he came home. And when he got home, things were kind of quiet. Nothing much had happened. I had some odd memories, so I wasn't sleeping well. We thought it had something to do with the war, and I was worried about him. But no, I don't think so. We went to Fort Benning, Georgia, and things were kind of quiet there. And he decided to get out of the service because he'd had helicopter crashes, had some things that he thought if he went back, and they were going to send him back to Nam in 3 months. And to us, that was way too soon. He didn't think he'd make it. So I agreed, let's get out. And we moved to Colorado. And then we started having experiences. We were seeing crafts. I was having memories of what I thought had to do with being a part of a breeding program. It turned out to be true. And then as the years moved on, 1982, we had been living in Denver and for a while, and we were going every weekend that we could possibly go to a beautiful camp area on the Arkansas River. And it was almost a 3-hour trip to get there. And we took a trip down through a park. It was called South Park. The only little town was called Jefferson, at the base of a pass that we went down through as we crossed that South Park. And we would stop up high on a pass, look down and take a break, just walk around and then head down. And we always went before dark. So this one night in 1982, we headed down. It was daylight because we didn't like to drive in the dark in the mountain passes. We could see across the valley to what was called the Collegiate Peaks. And that's where we needed to go to get to our camp. And I could see across that valley. Of course, it's much clearer there. There's no humidity, nothing that would cause us not to be able to see when it's dry. Beautiful view. I could see 2 lights way off in the distance. And I thought, what is that about? There are no homes, nothing, just desert, high desert. And as we went down into that valley, those lights came towards us. And they kept coming closer and closer. We headed down into the valley, and along both sides of us, there are snowboards built out of wood to prevent both tumbleweeds and snow in the winter from coming across the road and causing wrecks, or any trucks that were coming through from getting into accidents. There's nothing there that no one could be there to help them. So we were coming across, and the lights are coming from the left toward us. And I'm looking and watching, and pretty soon the lights are over the top of our car. And I rolled the window down, and I was looking above, and I thought, there's something attached to those lights. And as I thought that, I looked to my husband at the left, to the left of me, and he was frozen, just frozen, his hands on the steering wheel, and he didn't answer me. He was staring straight ahead, no response. And the wheels of the car lifted up and went right over the top of those protective boards and into the desert. We were carried across quite a ways and then settled down. And this, whatever it was, I thought at the time with the lights, moved over the front of the car and landed in front of us. And I could see then a huge craft. It was a giant disc. But at the time, my mind just left. The next thing we knew, we were about 2.5 hours down the road on what's called Trout Creek Pass. It was already dark, shouldn't have been. Our headlights were on, the motor was running, and my husband came to. And we were completely disoriented. Wanted to know, where are we? What are we doing? Looked around, figured out where we were, and decided, boy, my parents are waiting for us on the other side, about 9 miles away where our camp was. We needed to get going. We figured we better just continue on, get to camp, and figure out what happened once we got there. So we did. And I even said, was this a UFO? Was this an abduction? Had we been taken? And we drove on, and when we got to the camp, there's an old ranch with the caretaker, and my parents and our friend walking towards the ranch house to make a phone call, because there were no cell phones back then. So they're walking, they're going to call hospitals and fire departments and cops. There's only one road we could have come on. For 2 years we'd been doing that, never late. So, of course, we would have called the ranch house too. If we'd been in an accident, something went wrong, and they were going to get in their cars, my dad and his friend, and drive the road if they couldn't find us. So, of course, my dad said, what happened? We're rolling down the windows, and I saw our headlights pulling in. We had to say, we don't know. We do not know. My mom, she likes an answer. That's a mom. And she really needed to know. Couldn't tell her anything. So we went in, she had dinner ready long before, fire going, and we talked about it for quite a while. No answers. So we started to have dreams, and I did especially, about being in a craft and having something done to my foot, being angry, feeling the pain, and I finally called Dr. Bob Romack, who has passed away now. Worked with him for 5 years, researching not just my case, but he taught me the first, learning how to do hypnosis on myself, working with others. And I learned an awful lot about what had happened to me, how to help others. We worked with haunted houses, people that had been abducted, how to locate missing children. We did an awful lot together. Learned that I had had a wire inserted in my foot, that after years, and we had moved to Florida in 1985, it started to come out by itself.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you?
So.
Were you able to recuperate it, to get it back? Did you keep it?
No, I went to the doctor, and there was this real sharp piece of something between my toes, and it got infected. So I went to the doctor and he felt it and he said, I don't know what that is. And I had a faint memory of it by then. It had kind of faded away. And he said, I need to give you an antibiotic. And if it doesn't go away, we're going to have to take it out. And I said, well, that's fine. Let's do it. As I took the antibiotic, about the third day, it crumbled and it was gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a story. My ex, British contactee, fiance, whatever. She when we were together, she'd talk about something behind her knee that she was like not a scab, but a scar that would itch a lot of the times. And when she had to go back to the UK, and eventually we had to break up. But one time she calls and she says, Yannick, remember the thing behind my knee, the scar? I said, yeah. Well, she was getting a lot of bad people contacting her, let's say, military. And she calls out to the universe, I want to quit. I want this to stop. So the next day, behind her knee, it starts to itch. What she starts scratching, and what falls out was a white grain of rice.
Oh, yes. Oh, yep.
And the thing is, so it falls on the floor, and she's got the type of carpet that's really thick with fibers. Okay.
Right.
But her mind didn't even click to pick it up. For some reason, it fell, and she was like programmed. She went to get, they've got hoovers over there. They don't have vacuum cleaners, they're hoovers. So she starts hoovering the floor to get rid of the implant.
Oh boy.
So it's as if you're programmed already to get rid of it. And she didn't have a look at it. She could have opened up the the bag, but she didn't do it.
No.
But she had to call me to tell me. That's crazy.
Oh, and we've discovered now they will disappear really quickly once they're out, unless you put them in some sort of bodily fluid.
Oh.
Or they're gone.
So they vanish, they disintegrate?
We don't know. We've never seen them do it, but we've tried to send them to the lab just as they are, and they're gone by the time they get there. There's not a trace.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So so you had a metal fragment in you, and your body didn't reject it. So that's...
Yeah, it was in there for years. Had I known or remembered at the time that it was put in between my toes like that, and then when it decided to emerge, the antibiotic must have destroyed it. Yeah.
So you recall any physical pain of having that thing injected?
Oh boy, do I? Yes. If you watch that segment on the Travel Channel, that's what they're doing.
Okay. Can you tell the people who are watching the name of the show?
Yeah, on the Travel Channel, what a silly name is. Let's see, Aliens Crashed My Vacation. They chose that for a title.
Well, in your case, they did.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they sure did. Yeah.
How much missing time do you remember when from the road trip?
Yeah, almost 3 hours. And my husband was very good at setting the odometer, because this one time he thought there was something not working right with it. So he set it. And all the way across that high desert valley, it should have read something. And it didn't. But this time it was because we were moved by some other force and set down.
Does he recall having anything done to him as well at the same time?
He doesn't think so, but we don't know. Kathleen Marden did hypnosis on both of us, and he's only able to go so far as he's put under, and he gets as far as recalling some table. And as soon as he gets to that point, he's done. He won't take a look at that.
Because of fear, perhaps, or
we're not sure. Kathleen is hoping that at some point he might want to take another little look at it
Mhm.
just to see. He's gone a little further with a couple of the other episodes where I was taken here in Florida. And I was removed from a truck when we were going on a scuba diving. Let's see, where were we? We were in North Florida, and we had stayed in a hotel. And here, when you're going to go scuba diving, we were doing the Florida aquifer. So to find some of the sinkholes, your instructions are take a left at the farmer's barn and a right to here, because you're going in the woods.
Mhm.
And you have to know where you're going. So that's what we were doing. And we were going to dive a sinkhole. And he stopped at a stop sign. And I pointed behind the barn, the farmer's barn, and I said, "What are those?" And I saw something. They're in our book, the Alien Abduction Files. I drew one thing, he drew another. So we saw two different things that were probably several little UFO pods landed in the back of the barn. And we were stopped, and an entity, a gray, came and took me out. And he recalls me being put back in the truck. But something might have happened to him, because he said he felt kind of dizzy and as if he had been floating in some strange atmosphere. I can't remember exactly how he described it, but then that's all he can say.
Mm.
So
But, still,
we
it's
don't know.
exciting. Yeah. So do you want to get into the 2013 event? Or
Sure. See, there are a couple of different things. The 2013, that's the one with Kathleen, right?
you can
That
always
is,
get to other stuff if you want.
no, that's where we learned something new about abductees. When we came back from Tampa and nothing was working on my vehicle, I knew that I had been taken. I decided to take a shortcut. Big mistake. Because I ended up where our Navy base used to be, where I used to work. And it isn't anymore. It's a bunch of houses and really pretty place. But I went to a kind of abandoned, not aware of it, but 4 apartment buildings that dip down off the road into a semicircle where you can't be seen once you get to the base of that. That's where I was. And I saw a UFO, and I also saw an entity, a gray, peeking at me out from behind a tree. And he was signaling to me, "Come here." So I went with him. I wasn't gone very long, but I got in my car and I came home. And I had already told my husband, "Don't worry, I'm going to be late because the traffic is terrible." It was a holiday. I don't remember which one. And I came home and I called Kathy and I said, "I was taken. We had all that trouble, thought we were taken. Well, guess what?" And she said, "Can you come over? Can you come over tomorrow and bring your trimeter, bring something. We have to figure this out." So I went over, brought my trimeter, and brought some instruments. So we thought, okay, let's do the norm. Let's test your car. It was off. The needle was just running crazy. And that was for the electrical field for everyone that we tested. And she said, "Let me see something. Let's go in the house, in her house, and do like a base reading of the house, just in case anything had visited her." So we went in, we did the readings. No, it was fine. I couldn't get within 10 feet of that thing, and the needles went off the mark. So she said, "Oh, let's see if anything happens to me." Nothing. So then she said, something's not right. She called her husband in. She said, "Charlie, go in front of that meter." Of course, he thought we were acting fools. He goes in front of it, nothing. And she said, "Charlie, watch Denise." Within 10 feet, and the needle spiked. Bam, all the way to the end. That wasn't right. So we discovered that anybody, in most abductees, let's put it that way, are going to cause a trimeter to go off the deep end for some reason for up to 2 weeks.
Okay, that
It's
was
going
my
to
next.
spike.
Really, 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Wow.
up to 2 weeks. So the next few times I was taken, out came that trimeter, and sure enough, yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So it's
And
not just the car, it's a few other things. It's the body. Normally that will read up to 2 or 3 or 4 points. That's as high as it will go. No,
I wonder
not
if they
off.
took you with the car, and the energy field that they projected onto you might have been caused by that,
I
perhaps.
don't know. I wish I knew.
Yeah.
We're working on it.
Please tell me, do. Okay, well, that's creepy.
We
So
took
did
pictures of it. We got a video. As soon as we realized it was happening,
really?
she took video of myself and the meter and what was happening.
Okay, but
Mhm.
I got the photos of the two EMFs, the two machines that I'll be able to insert. But oh wow,
Mhm.
okay. Well, that's more proof, I guess.
Yeah.
People are always complaining. Where's the proof? Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Um, so did anything happen between that event and the shopping mall? I think with your mom, because that was somewhat.
Yeah, a few. Well, I had one of those little rice things put in my elbow that we noticed, and we decided we were going to get the doctor to take that out. So we started following it. She noticed it, I noticed it, and I was visiting her quite often because we were writing. And that little grain of rice traveled from my elbow to the back of my hand, and then it disappeared. So we couldn't get it taken out.
Okay.
It's almost like they knew that's not going to stay there because you want it. And so we're taking it.
Have you ever met Dr. Lear regarding your implants? Or
No. At the time, he had someone that was working with him, and I can't remember the name because I think there's someone still available.
there's Steve Colbert, I think, worked with him too. But
That might be. Yeah, I'd have to get the name for you, but it wouldn't have done any good because it's gone.
okay,
Yeah,
it's too bad.
yeah. We both tracked it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
imagine that. This ain't the first time I'm hearing about this. That the implants do move within the body.
Mm-hmm. They do. Yeah.
So
That one sure did.
we can from the info on the net. There's a sort of cocoon or like I think they use your own bodily material to encase it. Then it
Yes.
implanted, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's so fascinating. Do
it
you
is.
know why? Was there a specific use for that implant? Was it a tracker of sorts?
I think so. I'm pretty sure that's what they're for. And at specific times, I think it'll be a different implant for different reasons. So they may take one out, put another one in. Or, well, I don't want to say a different species because I think it's all the same species, or several working together.
Okay.
Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Did you could you feel it within the under the skin?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's no question of it. I could feel it. We both felt it. And she said, "This is moving. It's moved 2 inches." And the next week I would go and she said, "Well, it was at the elbow. Now it's in between." And the next time it's in the back of your hand. What's it doing there? And then the next thing it's just gone. And there was no entry or exit point.
Uh,
Yeah,
so I wonder if they took it during the night, or I don't
I don't know.
know. Okay, so yeah, so you had an experience with your mom at the shopping mall.
That was
What
very,
year,
very strange.
what year did this happen?
Oh, let's see. My mom passed away about 3 years ago now, and I want to say it was 5 years before that.
Okay.
So that's one that I didn't really mark the years down. I should have. It was Christmas Eve, and we were going to run to the store, to the mall, because we forgot just a few little things, Christmas stocking type things. And my sister wanted what we were going to get, and I was going to get for my daughter the same thing. So we ran up to the mall, and it's not a huge mall. I was there today, and it was outside JCPenney's. And there's 2 double doors entry. That's it. The rest is solid brick wall. And the brick wall goes down quite a ways, and then there's parking. And where we came in, parking. At the time, my mom had gotten a handicap parking sticker because her back had started to go. So she got handicap parking. We parked right there. We only had to cross where the cars went through, and then onto, this parking or the sidewalks are pretty wide at malls, and then the doors. So we went in, and we didn't have to go too far. What we wanted was pretty much right there. So we looked, we found what we wanted, and we had to just kind of make a little circle to the cashier. And we were standing behind another lady. Well, actually 2 other ladies. And we were just looking around, and in through the double doors walked 2 blonde ladies, twins. They looked like twins. Their hair was parted in the middle, and it came all the way down just above their waist, straight, very straight. And they were pushing what we call an umbrella stroller. It has no fanciness about it at all. It had umbrella-shaped handles that went straight down to a little bucket seat. No place to put any baby accessories, no diaper bags, no nothing. They couldn't even hang a purse on it. And I thought, that's funny, that's odd, because you need things for tiny babies, especially when you're out. And I looked, they had nothing on their shoulders, nobody was carrying anything, and they looked right at us. And they had these very overlarge almond-shaped eyes. And they looked at us, and they looked at the baby, and they looked at us like, look down is what I thought they were trying to tell us. I looked down, and there was a baby in that bucket, and it was covered up to its neck with a blanket, and there was no hair, a little overlarged head, and great big eyes looking at me. And I'm imagining this is a newborn, but I could tell by looking at it, it knew what I was thinking. Couldn't tell if it was a he or she, could see no arms or hands, nothing, just the head, sitting with the blanket here looking. And I looked back at them, and must have been a form of telepathy, because they're saying to me, do you get it? Do you get it? We're here. This is here. We're showing you. And then they went behind us, and I started to tap the girl's shoulder in front of us. The girl in front of her, and the cashier frozen stiff. They're not moving. They're just standing there frozen solid. And my mom started to talk, and I said, no, wait, I'm going after them. I turned around, and behind us was infants' clothing and children's clothing. I ran after them. I saw them turn right into infants' clothing. I turned in there. They were gone. They were just gone. There was no one else in the store because it was Christmas Eve, I guess. Couldn't find them. I came back to my mom, and she said, did you see that? Did you see that baby? Something was wrong with it. And I said, not just the baby. So the lady in front of me looked around, and I said, did you see those women with the baby? And she said, what are you talking about? And I thought, she didn't see it. So we paid for our goods. We went out to the car. We stepped outside the door. My mom was little. She barely came to my shoulder, and she could move like nobody's business. I couldn't keep up with her, even with her bad back. So she had these bags, and she headed across to the car, and I was walking slower, and I heard these voices say, turn around. So when I turned around, there were 3 men leaning against the brick wall, and they were wearing dark suits. They had hats on, and on the ground by their feet was a briefcase. And I looked at them, And one said to me, "Don't step off the curb." I remember that. So I looked, and they said, "You will never repeat what you saw and what you were shown inside the store just now." And I didn't say anything. I didn't say yes or no or maybe. I didn't respond. And they just looked really hard at me. So I felt like I didn't feel really threatened, but at the same time, I didn't feel safe. So I turned back, I stepped off the curb, and I went to my mom, and I looked at her, and she just shook her head, and she pointed at the car. I got in because I was driving. She got in, and I turned around and looked, and those men were gone. And the only place they could have gone would have been all the way down the sidewalk to the other parking lot, would have seen them. They were nowhere, or come across to where we were. No, they were gone. So all the way home, my mom said, you better tell me what just happened. What just happened to us? What was the matter with that baby? Tell me what you think. I couldn't. That was the Men in Black.
Yeah.
That was it. That's what I experienced. Yeah.
So they weren't military. It's really like, the alien type MIB that we tend to hear about on the net.
Yeah. And their faces were very, almost looked like pie dough, and kind of sick, tannish looking, like you could take it and reshape it if you grabbed it. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So were they wearing, did they have goggles on? Or could you see their eyes?
Glasses.
Glasses?
Like sunglasses, but you could see through. You could tell their eyes were too big. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. And how does your mom feel about that? About the
Well,
experience?
she knew what I was doing. She knew I was researching and investigating, and years before, I'm sure she had an experience with my dad. But she would say, "Show me now, take it away. Show me now, get rid of it." That kind of thing. Yeah.
So do you think the child was yours? Because you were talking about the hybrid program earlier.
Not that one.
Not that one.
No. But no, not that one.
But why would they show you that? It had a purpose.
I think they were showing me that they were hybrids, that they were here, and there was another one that had been born. That's all I could make of it.
So were they
We're
gorgeous?
here.
Were they good looking?
Oh, they were very good looking, yes. Very striking, very tall and slender. They were dressed identically, not striking outfits, almost what you would wear to exercise.
Okay.
That type of thing. The clothes, they were very kind of fit right to their bodies. No jewelry. Their skin was kind of pale, but not deathly pale. Yeah, it was.
Wow.
There, except for their eyes, the big almond-shaped eyes.
So how far to the sides did they go?
Almost another half from what ours
Oh my God.
are.
Okay,
You
so
would know.
yeah.
Like, that doesn't belong there.
No.
No.
'Cause I've seen someone that claims to be hybrid, but their eyes are, for human, they're a lot wider. But to
Yeah.
have the eyes go so far back is it's not normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And did they did you see the color of their eyes?
No, just very dark.
Okay.
I could not see any white,
Okay.
just darkness.
So the normal gray, like blackish.
Yeah. And I would have to say that their mouths were almost non-existent. And they had tiny noses. They did have noses, very tiny. I couldn't tell if they had ears because the hair came down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. You're blessed, really.
It was very interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Because a lot of people might say that they freak out, but of course you're you're used to it. But again, sometimes, you know, certain events happen so fast that you can't really, your brain doesn't react to it, and you just go with the flow. When I called my first craft with the British contactee, it came. I wasn't really aware that, you know, things were moving in space. And, you know, the first time we were together, she showed me that satellites were moving about. And the second day, that 45 minutes within, you know, that C5 we were doing, the craft came in just slowly, just over the power lines. And it was like orange red, normal, I'd call light ships. But, you know, it wasn't going fast. A lot of people were outside. No one saw it. We were the only two looking at it, and it just glided maybe like 30 feet above the power lines, just slowly.
Yeah.
You know, the whole thing lasted maybe a minute.
Yeah.
So again, but I was just in awe. So
You are.
Really. So
Yeah.
there's no fear. It's just, I think they show up to those who are willing to go through the experience. And you know, they know if you're with somebody, because the night before we were somebody else, but that person wasn't there with us that, you know, that same night where it came in. So I guess it shows itself to really those who are meant to see it.
I think so. Yes. Yeah.
The woman in black. Do you want to get into that?
Yeah, that was not that long ago. I think maybe that was a couple of years ago, 2.5 maybe. I think she was actually here to check on me. Sometimes you don't come up with what it was all about until a while after. We were all in bed, sleeping on a Sunday morning, and my daughter is handicapped, so she's been told, do not answer the door. Call us, no matter what, call us. So sometimes on weekends, she sleeps on the sofa. She likes to watch the big TV, and she stays there till she falls asleep. So that's what had happened. And the doorbell rang. And she thought, nope, not answering it. So kept ringing. And she looked, and we have a monitor so she can see who's out there. And she saw it wasn't normal, but nothing, she's not afraid of anything. So she called us, Mom, Dad, the doorbell's ringing and it won't stop. So, and the dog barked, but then I think the dog just looked like, well, you know, it's just typical because we have neighbors that ring and want something or borrow or whatever. So I got up, I said, okay, I'm coming out. So I went out and I looked in the monitor and I saw 2 women, one a little shorter than the other, black hair, straight across bangs, hair to, about here, black. And then great big almond eyes. And they had on jerseys, jumpers. So you could see the straps cut across here, and was dark blouses with short sleeves. So they had very thin arms. And I was staring because I thought, what? No, wait a minute. We know about men in black. I immediately wonder what they want. What is going on? So I didn't open the door right away. And then I thought, oh, get the door open. So I went to the left, opened the door, and they were already, we live in, like, it's not a cul-de-sac or a circle, it's a T shape. So across from us is more parking, houses, and a sidewalk that goes in between. And every single car, everybody was home. Sunday, everybody's sleeping because it was really early. The sun was just coming up. And there was nowhere for them to go, and they were gone.
Really?
So it was like, see us? We're looking in on you type thing. And we had to come to see if everything was all right. It was almost a telepathic type thing. Gone. So I went across, because they could cross, go down a sidewalk to the actual road. I went between the houses on the sidewalk and looked, no, nothing.
Well, it's. I guess you're lucky to have, you know, a crew following you all that time. Yeah, because I wonder if they're watching over you at the same time. Because, you know, coming out with all your experiences, have you ever had any bad experience regarding like military threatening you? Or
Only one time, and it was unexpected. It wasn't military, it was an abduction.
okay.
And it was reptilian, dressed in military garb. And it was military that I couldn't identify the country they came from.
Okay.
And a craft.
When did this happen?
Probably before what I just told you, maybe 6-7 years ago. And I was taken somewhere in the woods here, somewhere in the jungle, because there are abandoned aircraft hangars and so forth. It was in there, the craft was above the hangar, was taken during the night. My husband was too. He doesn't remember it, but he knew I was taken. He just doesn't remember he was with me. And we were lined up at tables. We were made to bathe in these big bowls filled with slimy liquid and put on robes and taken inside. There were reptilians in jackets, half military, but no collar insignia. And then, same thing, humans came down out of the craft, and they had clipboards, and they were writing, and they walked along the row of tables where humans were, telling us something. I cannot remember what they said. When they were done, we were brought back. I just don't know what it was all about, but I didn't like it, whatever it was. None of us did. So I am very alert and careful now to watch for that, because I would not allow myself to be taken again by a reptilian.
So
Whatever it was, wasn't good.
Were they human, like Earth military men?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that was the one negative. The little gals that came, the women in black, I saw one dressed as a nurse that actually saved my life when I was 20. I can match them. I have a drawing. I had a forensic artist do the women in black, and then he did the one as a nurse, and it's the same one. I know it is.
Oh.
So I can send you those.
Yeah, do send it if you have it as a GPS.
Yeah, I do.
Ah, that's
Yeah.
So how do you feel about that? Everything that's happened so far.
I feel very good. Yeah, very good.
Okay.
It's been a good lifetime of this, and I'm supposed to do it.
Okay. So do you know if there's a purpose to everything, to all the events that you went through?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I volunteered for it. I've now met 2 people that I'll have to wait and see if they'll agree to interview or talk, but they met a long time ago, I believe when they were 3 years old, and you'd know the minute you saw them, something is going on with them. They go back to when the consciousness was just that.
Okay.
And they agreed to something that is going to be amazing, I think. I'm working with them, and they knew they were going to meet me and were told to move to Florida and find me, and they did. And I knew nothing about it. They're an amazing couple.
So were they two? Were they 2 souls that knew each other before, and then they incarnated? Wow.
Yeah. And you can tell when you look at them that they're different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are they your age? Or are they?
Yes.
Okay, I imagine that. So.
Yes. But they showed up at a meeting I was holding, and there was something about them, but they had come to find me. They also knew where I had lived and came in a craft when I was 7 years old. They were looking for someone that had been about 7 when they saw me the first time.
I'm,
It's
I'm
an amazing story.
I'm speechless, really. Yeah, because
Yeah,
uh, I knew your story to an extent. Plus, we talked about it in 2015. But there's a lot of stuff that I'm really happy that's coming out. That
it's coming out.
yeah,
Yeah.
um, getting back to when you were in that fluid during your reptilian abduction. Do you know the purpose of that fluid? Was it a disinfectant?
I think so. I was supposed to do my hair, my body, everything, and to roll in it. It was just a big, like a marble tub. That was not unpleasant, but it was kind of a slimy feel, but it was also almost womb-like because it didn't have a temperature that I felt was different from my body. It was not hotter or colder.
Were you submerged?
Yeah, I was to get in and I could roll completely in it. Yeah.
So did you breathe it in? Did you swallow
No,
it?
not that time, no. But they had 2 bars of whatever this was I was washing with on the edge, and I was to take that and cover myself with it, and then roll and rinse, which I did. But it also dried really quickly. Soon as I got out and stood up, it dried away.
Okay. That
Hmm.
reminds me of stories that certain grays, when they're in that type of fluid, they use it as a food source, perhaps. So
Uh-huh.
it goes through the skin, so that's how they eat. Because they
Yes,
don't have normal mouths, or I think what I've heard is that the mouth is a pouch.
right.
But again, so that's totally different. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool. Um, Coming back, have you ever had since we were talking about the hybrid program, any phantom pregnancies?
Yes. I don't know for sure how many, but um, the one that I like to talk about was one that I was pregnant and I lost that child in an outhouse on the side of a mountain in the wintertime. And we were going on it. Well, it was late fall. We were going on a picnic, and I was so afraid because my mind had gone kind of blank. I had gone in the outhouse, miscarried. When I looked in, there was kind of a debris pile, and this sounds kind of gross. And I was so terrified at what I saw. I was afraid that someone would go in there after me and see what I saw because it was a large fetus of an alien.
Oh my God.
And I thought, someone sees this, I don't know what they're going to think. So I ran up to where my husband was at the top of a mountain. We had the picnic, but first I was taken.
Oh,
And I was taken into a craft, and I was shown a vial that had a child of mine in it already.
okay.
And I was told it was okay, that they had to fix what just happened, and they did. They fixed something
Okay.
because I had another pregnancy after that. But then I was told something that I can't find any other person that has heard this. I was escorted off the craft, but just before I was taken off and put back at the picnic table, and my husband and my brother-in-law and other people with us were just standing frozen in place. The ET said to me, if something had gone wrong, but you had carried that pregnancy through, that would have been yours to raise. And there are many like it.
So I assume that child would have been closer to a human looking child then.
I'm assuming, but if you
Yeah.
stop and think,
Yeah.
what were they talking about?
Yeah.
And I thought, would I recognize that? And all these kind of answers came through, like you should know who they are, you should know what they are. So I've got thoughts. I have thoughts and ideas. Um,
Sometimes I ask myself if you're related to them, if
mm,
if you can almost call them family.
mm-hmm. But how many women have given birth
Yeah.
um, to a child that's very special and they feel gifted, but they're specific types of children? Are they? I can think of
Yeah.
a couple of specifics right now, and I have.
Well, then, I suppose that they've got a specific mission. There's a reason for everything.
Right. There's a reason for everything.
Yeah.
So why was I told that? Why did they tell me? And that it was, it was okay. And there were many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. The Man in Beige, when did that happen?
That was this was all between, I would say, 1985 and 2000, because things have tapered off.
Okay.
So I'd say between yeah. And the last, the last 5 years, 6 years, nothing has happened.
Okay.
I can't give you an exact date on that. Matter of fact, that one has faded, and that's what's happened to a lot of the stuff. It's kind of drifting, like it's not important anymore. I don't know if I could bring that one back.
Okay.
Don't know if I could tell you.
Okay. Well, we don't have to get into that one. But so yeah, like regarding my stuff, since 2016, since really when I came out publicly, from 2009 to 2013, even 2016, a lot of stuff happened. But as soon as I came out, it started to wean away, sort of. And but you've had a lot of stuff go on, of course. But during that time, there were certain years that I was single, and having that type of stuff happen to me brought me comfort. Some might think that I'm crazy, but no, like when I was sleeping at my dad's or even at my house, I'd be tapped during the night, like wake up. Like sometimes I get tapped twice. Once on my lower leg, and then I'd wake up, and then I knew they'd be there. Then I'd be happy. Then I'd fall back asleep. A few hours later, get tapped on the shoulder.
Yes.
And so that I was really happy that those things happened. But again, since coming out, it's sort of dropped a bit. So I'm sort of sad, and in a way that I'm hoping they're still there. I'm pretty sure I got abducted with my new girlfriend because something happened that I did talk about in an earlier video. But a few hours before we were supposed to meet up, she's an experiencer. So a few hours before we were supposed to meet up, I was at the hotel. I drove down 5 hours to see her. So I was at the hotel. She was at her parents', and we had the same experience happen during that same night, during roughly around the same hours, because we were sleeping, of course. So my jaw dropped when she texted me and she said stuff that happened to me at the same time. So that was pretty. I remember going through, like, feeling that I was moved about on the bed. I heard voices, screeches, and I remember like feeling like being pushed through the wall, then going up. So but again,
but would you have it not happen? Would you tell it never to happen again?
No, I want it to happen. I was when my fiance and I had a breakup, I was at the company I worked for, the mining company, went broke. So, and I eventually had to sell my house. So I moved in with my dad because my mom just passed away. So at the same time, like for some reason, like divine, that I was there for my dad. Because my mom passed away. And so a lot of stuff happened there too. When I called in my second UFO, I was alone at my dad, but outside at my parents' house. When it came in over my head again, the same craft, again, just above the trees this time, because we're in the woods by the lake. I went inside to get I had the idea, go get your parents. My mom is into angels and UFOs. She came out quick. So she saw it when it was nearby. My dad, when it was further away. But since that day on, he's been getting experiences too.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
last year, he calls up and just to say that, Yannick, I woke up because he's with his girlfriend now. He woke up and there was a clown in his bedroom. It didn't look
Oh,
too much like a clown, but you know, he
I bet
dressed
not.
weirdly, but
Yeah.
he tried to kick it and it disappeared.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So,
Funny how they do that.
yeah, it wasn't great, but yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do feel happy that, you know, I went through that.
Yes.
Nothing bad happened, but again,
No.
I think it changed my life, and you know, thanks to them and my ex-fiance, and that I was able to
Mm-hmm.
meet everyone in the team. I met you in 2015, so
Yes.
I felt that I was being moved around. You know, I'd say that I was like a piece on a chessboard because I had to meet certain people, I had to do things. Even when I was dating somebody, like in 2009, when the stuff started to happen,
Mm-hmm.
my girlfriend wanted kids, but a voice in me was always saying, if you have kids, you can't do what you need to do. Like
Yeah.
it's creepy that, but
It is.
hindsight,
It's
it makes sense now. So,
yes, it does. Yes. You just know and you feel and you sense it stronger than if you had not had these
yeah,
experiences.
that's right.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of things were prophetic voices.
Oh, yes.
So did you when you slept, did you have any like stuff happen to you that, you know, like voices telling you the future, or like
Yes. Yes. And more so now. Um, that could be another show. It's
yeah,
very interesting.
okay.
It's all coming to fruition. People are contacting me who say, um, I've become extremely psychic. I have a gal that writes to me, "Are you okay? Because I see this." She's predicting the volcanic eruptions, the Earth's anger, the earthquakes. And she said, and look at this. She sent me a video of her and she proved everything around her. She has no fans going, no nothing. And she had a item spinning on top of a pencil with her mind.
Wow.
And she stopped it and had it spin the other way. She said, look what I can do. I can make my mind cause these things, and I want to focus it on what we need to do because something's coming. And she's writing to me. I'm getting these people who are contacting me saying that we belong here for a reason. And now this couple I told you about,
Mhm.
it would be really great if you could talk to them. I'm going to be contacting them again. They want to talk, and I think maybe you should talk to them if they will.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
You would be
I will.
interested to hear their story.
Um, so yeah, coming out was, I guess, the best thing that I could do, because of that, I've got corroboration from other people that went to the same events, and you know, now they're friends. So this whole ET thing is really life changing. So perhaps we could wrap it up, call it a
Yes.
night, and so Denise, thanks for coming on.
Oh,
Um,
thank you, Yannick. Maybe we can do it again. This was wonderful.
Tonight is one of the best nights ever. Really, honestly, I had a blast.
Good.
I really enjoyed it. So to those watching, hope you enjoyed it. More experiencer interviews coming up, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks a bunch.
Good night, Yannick. Thank you.